When is there going to be a national reckoning about the illegal migrant catastrophe that is threatening British lives and livelihoods? Every time this story starts being covered like the complete crisis it is, the Liberal elite and the MSM find a way to divert attention. So this week, rather than talking about the continued invasion via our southern border and the brazen people smuggling gangs that are now completely out of control, the establishment would much rather try and focus on the perfectly pleasant conditions on board the Bibby Stockholm barge and some straight talking from the Conservative Party's deputy chairman, speaking about the barge refuseniks. So claiming that they were too scared of water to get on board despite having crossed the channel on a small boat, Lee Anderson, I think quite understandably, raged this.
If they don't like barges, then they should f*** off back to France.
Speaking in more moderate but still very clear terms, he was backed up by the Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick today, who made it clear illegal migrants to this country have no choice about whether they get to stay in a hotel or a barge.
Always house people in decent, legally compliant accommodation, but it's not right that people can pick and choose and expect to be put up in four-star hotels, and that's the change that we're bringing about.
Both comments from Anderson and Jenrick will be shared by the vast majority of hard-working Brits who are increasingly furious at the price and social destruction of having to house so many illegal migrants. But as part of the usual distraction from what really matters, cue faux outrage from the establishment media.
That's why you know that you can say with a degree of impunity stuff that, frankly, would have got you thrown out of the British National Party.
But what it is funny, this blank off back to France, like all these migrants came from France.
But he's a wrecking ball for the Conservatives.
Even the leaders across the world of far-right political parties don't put it that crudely.
This is ramping up the rhetoric and, as a result, really to just try and distract from the fact that the government is failing.
So should Rishi Sunak sack Lee Anderson for the thing he said about migrants?
Meanwhile, the hard left are unable to hide their disdain for the thousands of innocent people who are putting their lives at risk in the Channel every day because they refuse to help solve the crisis. After a migrant boat capsized off the coast of Tunisia, tragically claiming the lives of 41 people, suspended Labour MP and staunch Corbyn ally Diane Abbott tried to score some cheap political points with this despicable, now deleted tweet saying migrants have indeed effed off to the bottom of the sea. Of course, the entire left-wing establishment doesn't want to stop the boats, knowing full well it will lead to a total wipeout of the Conservative Party at the next election. This leaked electoral calculus poll to Channel 4 shows just that, with only 90 Tory MPs back in Parliament based on their current forecast, a result that would be far worse than the Tony Blair landslide in 1997. Just look at this list of current cabinet ministers, including the Prime Minister, who would lose their seats in such a scenario. But there is the slightest sign of hope if the Tories are prepared to be bold, and that starts with leaving the ECHR in order for us to regain full sovereignty over border control. A possibility Jenrick did not entirely rule out this morning.
Do whatever is necessary, ultimately, to defend our borders and to bring order to our asylum system.
Right, whatever necessary, including leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, potentially, if you feel you have to.
Well, we will do whatever is required.
Leaving the ECHR has been required for the past 3 years. So the time for talk is long over. Only a dramatic policy overhaul, which will infuriate globalist organisations and the entire political and media establishment, can start to clear up this mess.